guys, welcome back to Conversations with Rob. So this week I had a chance to sit down and speak with Tania Rak. Tania is an entrepreneur, a writer, and also a local coordinator with Students for Liberty in the Ukraine. So Tania is the CEO of Vyunko, which is an environmentally conscious delivery startup. They deliver goods around the Ukraine using only eco-friendly transport, and they also attempt to reduce the amount of non-recyclable packaging. Tania is also the leader of a local women's empowerment group in Mariupol in the Ukraine. So in this conversation, we talked about lots of things. We talked about Vyunko. We talked about the vision that Tania has for the company's future. We talked about investment opportunities. We also talked a little bit about consciousness and how crazy a concept that is. Because Tania is also interested in psychology. We also talked about the imposter syndrome and what it means to her. So without further ado, here's my discussion with. Hello, guys. Welcome to another conversation with Rob. I'm really excited today to introduce you all to Tania Rak. Tania is from the Ukraine. So, welcome, Tania. How are you today?
Hi, Rob. I'm pretty fine. Thanks for inviting me to be the speaker of your podcast episode. Much honor to me. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. So you're doing lots of interesting things. You're a CEO, you have your own startup over in Ukraine. You're also involved with Students for Liberty. You're also really interested in psychology, and we're going to get into it all. So maybe to start off, you can tell us a little bit about Vyunko, your startup company.
To speak about me starting my startup, perhaps I have to get you more introduced to what I did before. So my career path was long and tough, and still is to some extent. I started working rather early. I just turned 17, and I felt the point that I needed to help my family. Because we faced some hardships with mom since dad passed away rather early. And I was thinking of what I could do. And when you're 17 years old and you don't have the experience, the options are not so wide to you, right? And so from that time, I changed more than 10 or perhaps 12 jobs. So I worked as a babysitter, I worked as a waitress, I worked as barista, I worked as an administrator into a photo shooting studio, I worked as a photographer assistant, I worked as a photographer, as a sales manager, I did photo books, I did the HR in the field of IT for the European Commission, I did PR, I did blogging, copywriting, and perhaps I forgot something else. And after that, one day I was just sitting on the floor and thinking like, okay, where am I going and where my life is leading me to? And I came across one advertisement on Instagram. It was just target advertising, and there was said that they needed a student who is well acquainted with journalism. And I have 2 degrees. The first one is in English translation, and the second one is PR. But we also have a double degree program, so journalism is the second one. So technically I have 3 degrees. And I decided to give it a shot and to apply for this position. I was contacted in like 2 weeks, and they asked me to come up to the first round of the interview. I faced this kind of imposter syndrome because I got to the first round with the girls who used to live in the United States, and this company was US based, and I thought that they have much more prospect to work with them. But then I became an intern there after 2 or 3 rounds of interview. I don't remember because it was like 3.5 years ago. I worked there for 2 months, and after that I got promoted to the PR manager, and I worked on the project connected with healthcare in the US. Then I worked on the dating apps and their promotion. I worked on some educational projects as well. And it was a nice experience because I think that in case you want to create something of your own, you have to get the experience, right? To make it easier for you to implement it in future. And I worked like that for 3.5 years. And I did different positions because startup is such a thing that sometimes you have to combine several things. So I even did accounting there, though it really sucked. But in case if you want to fail your business from the financial side, I'm always here. And after that, I faced some kind of personal crisis in January because I just faced difficulties. And you know, when one difficulty comes up to your life, another one comes, and then another. And I ended up with thinking where I want to go because I understood that I wouldn't have any further growth and promotion in this company. And things that I did, they were nice, and I got the payment and this document that I would have normal salary, normal ordinary life, but I was not satisfied. And for me, doing something which is meaningful is a very important option. It's not only about the money. And at that time, I got the job offer from one man who I used to work with. He was also from the US, but he was of Polish origin, and he wanted to launch one project connected with healthcare field in Warsaw, and he invited me there. And I even started to learn Polish for that purpose, but then the quarantine happened, and it was frozen, and I didn't have another option, right, to continue working for the job. And at that time, I was thinking of what can I do else? Because I'm used to combine several positions. I'm used to combine studying for several degrees at one time. So this kind of time management for me is not a thing that can be considered somehow tough. And I decided to attend one event that was carried on in Mariupol. It was about launching the business incubation program. And I met some guys there who were the students of the Ukrainian Academy of Leadership, and they just came to the city for 2 months because of the exchange program. And the first stage was just the volunteering program because there are lots of people with special needs and people of age here in Mariupol. And I decided to join their idea because we wanted to make a free delivery and just to be of help. And since I also had 2.5 years of volunteering for ISIC organization, I know how such projects are built up and how to launch them successfully and attract perhaps some investments there. And after we tried it, we got the partnership with the Ukrainian platform Poboromo.org, called, which fought against the COVID. And in this case, we could solve the problem of building up the website and all of these technical issues. The only thing that we had to do is to find the couriers and to make delivery itself. And after that, once we were discussing it just in the morning, having coffee, and I said, like, okay, guys, what should we try to turn it to business? And they said, okay, but how can we do it? And as I mentioned at that time, the business incubation program was launched in Mariupol, and it was the first time in the times of the independent Ukraine, and Ukraine is rather young as an independent country. And so there is one pros. We are living near the front line, and living near the front line means that this region needs some kind of stability. And that's why there are lots of programs. Mine was from the USAID, one of the programs of the USAID connected with the economic growth of the region. So we decided to make a pitch to the organizers of it, and we were accepted. I was pleasantly surprised because the only thing that we had was the idea. We didn't have the naming, we didn't have the brand book, we didn't have the business model, nothing. We just said that, okay, we need the delivery and perhaps it can be eco delivery. But how can it be eco? No one knew. And after that, we started 6 month educational program there. And we had some sessions with mentors. They're supposed to be offline, but these quarantine times, and that's why it all moved to Zoom. And we had lots of consultations with people from Kiev, with people from abroad about how to build up the financial model, the business model. And I started attracting some friends of mine because I had lots of colleagues who I used to work with. I just have awesome and creative friends who are designers, who are very talented software developers, and they helped us. Created the logotype, created the demo version of our website, and we started to grow the project. After that, we also got the strong media support because I used to work on the local TV channel for 2 or 3 months in the past, and I organized us some interviews, and that helped us to make this project better known in the city. And if you're better known, there are more chances to attract investment. After that, we also took part in one show. It's an all Ukrainian show, and the episode with us will be published on YouTube
Awesome.
on September. Yes, thanks.
Cool.
And we graduated from it like a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and we got the second prize. Unfortunately, we didn't get the investment, but we got the nomination, the project that is the most highly demanded by the market. And currently, we are applying for different grant programs. I applied the one just yesterday. It's the Ukrainian All Startup Cup, which would be held in Copenhagen in 2021, if the COVID doesn't ruin the plan.
Tell us a little bit about what the company does. Tell us who you serve and what the vision is for the company.
So, Vyunko is an eco delivery startup. As I said before, there are 8 members. I have 3 co-founders. The vision is such: we want to show that the delivery is fast, cheap, and it saves lots of time. The thing is that we don't have many competitors here in Ukraine. So there was Uber Eats, but Uber Eats left the market in June. And also there is Glovo and the local service named Raketa. But the point is that since we are located near the front line, Glovo doesn't want to spend resources to come up to the city. And truly, I hope that it wouldn't, at least in the nearest future, till we strengthen our positions. But Mariupol is geographically rather wide, and it's very hard to make the deliveries from one district to another because of that. And the ecological situation is tough as well, and that's why we were thinking what we could do with it. So we're trying to get rid of the transport that is not eco-conscious. So currently our couriers use only bicycles. I didn't know how we would cope with it in the cold times, but in case there is no snow, and last 2 winters were rather mild here, so perhaps we just would think something by that time. Also, we use the recyclable materials in our packaging. And we serve the clients of age and the clients with special needs. I don't like the word disabilities. It's not really client orientated, for free, because I think that it's the least how we can help them. For now, we reached such milestones as building up the business model, the financial model, the brand book, the website. We have first partners, which are local cafes who are always willing to support the local business. What else? We got first clients. We got this media partnership with the YouTube show, and currently we are working on getting the investment, because this kind of business requires really lots of money.
Yeah.
It's not that you just get one bicycle and you make the deliveries yourself. It's about some lost orders. It's about conflicts with the clients. And also, I personally afraid about the safety of the couriers because we have a curious statistics. Usually, Glover have most of the couriers who are men. In our startup, things are going vice versa. I don't know why. Perhaps it's just about me and my personal brand in social media, and that's why mostly girls are attracted by this job opportunity. But that's how it is, and that's why I'm also working on making their work much more safer than it is at the present moment. But I know that it's also the question of time and resources that you have. So
Brilliant. Good on you. I know that investment is a challenge, especially in this COVID madness in these times. You know, especially in Ireland, investors are quite reluctant to risk their money on something that is, let's say, unproven. But it sounds like you've won an award for the most needed by the market. Do you see much of a opportunity elsewhere outside of where you are for the same type of model?
yes, yes, because it's just one of the programs that can be possibly implemented and that we can integrate our business with. The point is that Ukraine itself, because it's a young country, yes, and it's trying to be pro-Western country, it's a good platform for the startups generally. And I don't speak just about my region, but my region is curious in the way that it's still Ukrainian. I mean, like 2 hours away from my city, and it's Donetsk, and Donetsk is not the part of Ukraine anymore. And that's why it's important to save this territory and to make people stay there to grow the economical potential of the country. So currently we are having several programs that support entrepreneurship in this region. Personally, I became the member of VTech. VTech is a women community where you can find investment, where you can find useful partnership. So you can just ask for a tip that you may face at the beginning of your business. And also there are lots of grant programs, joint programs. It's called Spilno Kosht here, and we are applying on all of them. And we are just trying to use the go-go attitude. Like you apply everywhere, and somewhere you can give it a shot, but you never know where exactly.
Fantastic. That's great. And what's the Ukraine like in terms of the startup community? You mentioned that it's quite a new country. Is it got a vibrant startup community, or what's it like?
Well, I think that it depends on the field of the startups. Yes, because currently the ability to grow get those startups who are on the high demand, and the high demand comes out of the pain points that face the client. And if we speak about these pain points, it's healthcare, first of all, because we have different kinds of reforms during the last 2 years, and it's still unknown whether they would work in the country or not. And in case if not, what's their alternative? So they bloom. Then also it's fintech startups, it's logistics and delivery, and IT field as well. Mariupol is becoming the center of the IT, and it's surprising even for me, but that's what we have now.
Yeah. Okay, so that's really interesting. So you're not only interested in startups and being a CEO, you've also got an interest in psychology and consciousness. You were on my friend Amit and Mohammed's quarantine show podcast recently talking about consciousness. I'm interested to know what it is about psychology that interests you.
Well, I think that I cannot define only the one point because I think that we as the personalities always have some more intentions of being interested in something. For me, my life path is a movement towards the people. And for me, it's rather easy to understand the emotions of people, their intentions, why they act in this way or in another one. And it's okay if you are empathetic for that, yes, but it's much better if you have some scientific understanding of why all of us are different, what makes us act, perhaps some traumas that we caused in the past, perhaps um, some desires, some wishes, some historical, cultural, economical background, or whatever. And that made me read more on the topic. That also made me get into connection with some people who work in this field, and also I had some experience with therapy on my own, and that led me to this point where I have some experience. I don't know whether it's rich or not because it's hard to judge yourself. But when you have some experience, it's nice if you can share it with people who face the same situation at the present moment. So perhaps you can be helpful, perhaps you can drive them to some kind of insight, and perhaps you never know what word can lead to people to think over the problem and find the solution. So that's why I'm interested in psychology.
Yeah. And you're specifically interested in consciousness, which I have to admit, when I was doing my psychology part of my degree, this whole area confused the hell out of me because it's so many different theories, there's so many different things to contemplate, and having access to a consciousness makes it even worse because you come to the theory through your own filter and you try to understand what people are talking about through your own access to consciousness. And I have to admit, it super confused me. So for you, what are the most important parts of consciousness for you personally?
Well, I think it's hard to define only one. So, first of all, when we speak about consciousness, we always speak about this awareness of our internal or even external existence. Yes, and I think that it's impossible to answer on this question just having your own opinion. Why? Because despite the centuries, really the centuries of analysis, of different definitions, of different explanations, debates by philosophers, scientists, psychologists, artists, we still face one of the most familiar, but at the same time, one of the most mysterious aspects of our lives. For me, it's an integration of our mental state and our physical body. It's about our neuron connections and about us being a person who, I don't know, someone is explaining it with having soul, yes, especially people who tend to have some deeper religious views. It's also about our private thoughts. It's also about our imagination. And I think that it's also about our kind of experience. It's also about our feelings. It's about our cognition, and it's about self-awareness.
Yeah, and for me, like obviously working in personal development, self-awareness is everything to me because I was reading something recently around people having this access to this inner monologue, and what I didn't realize was that not everybody has an inner monologue, which I found fascinating. So for me, and this is something that I need to really watch myself on, is that I almost universalize what is real for me onto everybody else. And that's just not right. Like, I shouldn't be doing that. Especially as a coach and trying to help people. It's about understanding where people are. And like I started my journey, God, it must be over 20 years now, thinking about all of these things. And for me, the most important aspect in terms of, if you have a goal that you want to grow, you have to become, first of all, aware of what the hell is going on for you. But secondly, playing with your cognition and understanding where growth might be possible is super important. And like, my life goal is to make people excited about that. So a question for you, I suppose, is what made you kind of excited about that? The sort of the knowledge that you could grow in a specific area.
Well, let me think. Well, first of all, it's just the need to understand myself, because I don't live in a vacuum. I live in the society, and I have to integrate myself somehow with other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first point. And in case if you don't understand yourself, your own needs, who you are, where you move, how can you build up the normal relationships, healthy relationships with your friends, with your potential partner, with your family, in the field of your career? It's impossible. So if you want to reach normal healthy relationships, being a part of the society, you have to start from yourself. The first point. The second point, I think it's a destructive one, but it all began with a fear, because when my dad passed away, I was lost and I didn't get a normal support, though I supposed to. And that's why I tried to search the answers just in myself. And when I dig deeper, I understood that nearly all of us have those things that make us feel numb or tough, but it's in our power to overcome it. It's also about the connection of our physical and mental parts, and it's also about some symptoms that can be psychosomatic. Yes, and when you understand this amount of information, you need to make it more clear just in your head. And that's what I'm working till now. And I'm not sure that this journey can have the end. I think
No, it doesn't. It never ends.
So you said digging deeper, 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 deeper. But when you feel yourself calm, when you feel yourself like you're enough and you don't need another person for it, no matter who, mother, father, partner, boss, then you can share it with someone, and then you can act not from the fear as I did at the beginning, but just of the willingness to be helpful to someone, to make a positive impact and make something valuable in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really when I was digging into that, you mentioned that you've done some psychotherapy. I've done patches of psychotherapy throughout my life, from my early 20s even into my 30s. And it was at that moment when I started to dig into where I had, because what we present to therapy is like the real problem of just like, oh, I don't like feeling like this. I don't like constantly having these thoughts. Please help me deal with this. And when I started to learn some tools and techniques in that context, I was really able to hack myself almost, and I learned how to, okay, I've done it, I've solved this problem here with maybe anxiety or dealing with certain professional contexts or whatever it was. I was able to go and say, okay, I've got this problem in other relationships. And also, like you mentioned, you're able to then help other people and solve other people's problems, which is kind of like a superpower. I feel like it's a superpower when we're helping other people solve their problems with things that you've overcome. I love that. And it doesn't end. Like, we're human beings, we're incredibly complex, and it really never ends. We'll always find problems to solve. So for you, what are some of the problems that like you've enjoyed solving within yourself that you're able to now help other people?
Well, I think that in my in my case, first of all, it's overcoming the loss of the close people. Unfortunately, I faced it a lot since early childhood, and it was in a very short period of time. And the point is that every person overcomes the grief in one's own way.
Yeah.
And being physically grown up doesn't mean that you always grow up mentally.
No.
And that's why even if you cannot get support from your close people, and I say to all the people who perhaps are facing some problems that may be alike at the very present moment, it's very important to understand what hurts you and what you feel now, why you feel it, and how you can help it. I mean, there are lots of periods of life that can be tough, but it's in our power to overcome it. Just to be more attentive to yourself. Then the second point is the imposter syndrome. It's very common, and we have already discussed it with you. I think that most of the people face it in one or another way. But the point is that some people are more sensitive, some people are less sensitive. Some people are more offensive, some people are less offensive. I'm not offensive, and I know my pros and cons being a person, but I'm rather sensitive, and sometimes I start to overthink the questions that were discussed like 1 month ago, and you know this feeling when you're lying in bed and it's 3 a.m. and you remember, okay,
oh yeah,
months ago. But as of tomorrow, and currently I'm writing an article which I have already told you about the imposter syndrome, and it's interesting for me what forms the syndrome. I mean, the cultural background, because the answers were rather different of women and men, people from former Soviet countries and people from the Western countries. And it's curious because actually all of us in the cell, in this hot zone, are fluffy, mild buns. But life obstacles makes us reflect on the situations in different way, and that's why it's very important to ask yourself who I am, why I'm doing it. Am I satisfied with the present moment? Am I satisfied with people who surround me, with career, and all of that stuff? I know lots of the techniques on how to overcome it, though I don't have the certificate of coach, but I was just interested in it. So I think that in case if someone needs help with it, I can at least listen. I can share my experience, and if the person decides that he or she wants the support, I will do my best so to provide this support.
Yeah, that's awesome, because that's really all people want. And you mentioned imposter syndrome. I wrote a little article last week or 2 weeks ago about my own experience with the imposter syndrome. It was interesting when I joined SFL, which you've just joined, and you're in for a real treat there. It's an amazing organization. But when I joined, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a collection of factors. But when I joined and I went to the Top 100 retreat for the first time in 2016 in Gummersbach, for the first 2 days, I really felt like an imposter. You get surrounded, like you were in Madrid, right, at LibertyCon this year. And when you are surrounded by super intelligent people, and I had this sense of, what am I doing here? You absolute fraud, Rob. This is the narrative going on in my mind. It's like, you do not belong here. And that narrative just becomes so loud in your mind. But over time, what I found was that it went away, because I started to see, actually, you do have a place here. You mightn't be the biggest expert on microeconomics and all of that stuff, which I'd never studied, so I shouldn't have expected that I did. But you have extraordinary skills here, which is a feature of the imposter syndrome. We tend to really downplay our own strengths and inflate the strengths of others, which is exactly where this whole idea emanates from. And I wonder, like, in your own experience, what was it that you had that tendency to experience the imposter syndrome? Was there any contexts? Does it happen now as a CEO for your company, or where is it? What contexts do you experience that?
Oh, wow. For me, I think that firstly I faced it being a teen, because I think that most of the people start facing it in the teenage years.
Yeah.
Because you go through this tough process of separation from your family, and you start to identify yourself as a person, and as well as you're also integrated to some teenage community, school, or perhaps some extra curriculum activities. And there's always a person who wants to prove the leadership and starts judging other people. In case if morally this person is rather strong, you just follow someone's opinion. And in my case, I was just against some so-called leaders, and in this case, some activities that I wanted to provide during that, they were disvalued, and I felt like an imposter. But then I realized that it all comes from the community, from the supportive community. As you said, like you felt yourself an imposter among very intelligent people. It's somehow about being self-sure and thinking that you are not enough. But the point is that you are always enough. And even if you face the syndrome, sometimes it might be helpful. In case you think that you know everything, there's no any path for you to further grow.
Exactly.
And we grow during all of our life. We learn everything, and the first thing that we have to admit that we really cannot know everything, but we can learn, at least to give it a shot. And sometimes it's better to start doing something. Perhaps at the beginning you can do it poorly, but in fact, if you are really interested in something, you will grow in it, in this direction. If not, you can always change. And if to speak about whether I face it now, yes, I do. Sometimes, first of all, I never face it when we speak about some personal values or appearance, because it's something default, yes, and this person you can always grow and change. But when we speak about the professional fields, I can be very offended by the criticism of my works as a journalist. I will never show, and I can accept the critics, but sometimes it can be constructive and sometimes destructive. In the second point, I will think about it over the months. And being a CEO, yes, I need to carry on the responsibility for the whole team, for the whole project, for the financial side. I reinvest money, and I had to find an extra job at the present moment at the PR agency in order to make an ability this project grow till we don't find an investment. And sure, I'm afraid that we can fail. But I also understand that fails as well as success can always happen, and you may once not fail, the second one the same, but for the third time it will happen to you. And you can overcome this imposter syndrome if it is connected with work. Just being grateful for the lesson you got. And in case you got it, now you know how to act in these situations, and the next time you will do much better.
Brilliant. I love that, Tania. That's amazing. Listen, tell us what you see for your future. You've got so many different things going on. If in an ideal world, here's a magic wand. If you could paint the future the way that you wanted it to be, what would it look like?
It's a question I'm trying to answer myself. I'm trying not to make long-term planning. I mean, I know approximately that I want to grow my business, and currently I launched the second one project connected with sales in the field of fashion. I'm also interested in. I'm sure that one day I will come up to perhaps some coaching or helping people in the way I can, for volunteering, writing, perhaps some charity projects. And I think that I would like to see myself with inner peace and inner balance, surrounded with those people whose society I really admire. And actually, I wish everyone to find their way and find people who they will feel themselves most at home. It's very important.
Absolutely. If people want to get in touch with you, where should they direct themselves to?
Well, I think that we can attach the links to my Facebook and my
Yeah,
Instagram. So I'm always free to have a conversation and to meet new people in case they would like to have a chat. Well, also I can share the link to the website of Vyunko, or if they
yeah. I actually had a look at that last night, and it's very pretty. It looks good. At first, it was in Ukrainian, and then I translated it into English, and yeah, it looks great. It really does, and I wish you every success with that in the future. Um, and I will put all of those in the show notes down below. But for today, thank you so much for joining me. This has been really interesting.
Thanks, Rob. It was a pleasure for me to join you today because I did enjoy our conversation. So I hope it's not our last one.
Of
And
course.
have a great day. So, bye.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you all soon.